Welcome to Quick Course Digest. Today we're digging into strategic planning, and specifically something called Material Requirement Planning, or MRP. If you've ever stopped to think about how a huge company gets every single little screw, wire, and piece of plastic to the right factory at the exact right time, well, you're in the right place. We're about to look at the brains behind that whole operation.
Okay, so for any business that makes a physical product, inventory is a constant tightrope walk. You lean too far one way, you're drowning in costs. But if you lean too far the other way, you're turning away paying customers. It is a really high-stakes dilemma, and the consequences are very, very real.
Let's just break down those two extremes for a second. On one hand, carrying way too much inventory means your cash is literally just sitting on a shelf. It's tied up in boxes instead of being used to grow your business. But on the other hand, if you carry too little, you run into the absolute nightmare of stockouts. We're talking lost sales, angry customers, and a reputation that can take a serious hit. So how in the world do companies find that perfect sweet spot?
Well, the answer lies in taking a really systematic approach. Faced with this incredibly costly balancing act, businesses needed a powerful planning solution to take all the guesswork out of their inventory.
And that solution is Material Requirement Planning, MRP. I want you to think of it like a central nervous system for a manufacturing operation. It's a computer-based system, and its whole job is to perfectly balance supply and demand. The goal is simple, but it's powerful. Get the right materials to the right place at the right time and for the lowest cost possible. So how does it pull this off? Well, the system has a few core functions. It takes direct control of your inventory levels, it assigns priorities to all the different components based on production timelines, and it calculates the precise capacity you're going to need. It is all about creating this incredibly efficient schedule for both making things and buying things. But a system like this is just a powerful engine, right? It needs some high-quality fuel to actually run. For MRP, that fuel comes in the form of three absolutely critical pieces of data. Let's take a look at what they are. These three inputs, they really are the foundation of the entire system. First, you've got the master production schedule. That's the big picture plan. It says, we need to build 10,000 of these widgets by next Friday. Next up is the bill of materials, which is basically the detailed recipe for one of those widgets, every single chip, screen, and screw. And finally, you have the inventory record. This tells the system what you already have in the pantry, so to speak, and how long it takes to get more ingredients. So, once the MRP system has these three key pieces of data, it gets to work. It follows this really logical four-step process to turn all that raw information into a precise, actionable plan. Okay, step one, it estimates demand. It takes that big picture plan and uses the recipe, that bill of materials, to figure out every single part it needs. Step two, it checks that shopping list against what's already in the warehouse and sets aside those existing resources. Third, it builds the actual production schedule, calculating the exact time and labor needed to hit those deadlines. And finally, step four, it monitors the entire process, flagging any potential delays and even suggesting backup plans to keep everything on track. All right, so after all that complex calculation, what does the system actually spit out? I mean, what do you get? Well, the outputs are what managers use to run the factory day in and day out. You can kind of think of it as the operations daily scorecard. And these outputs, they come in two main flavors. The primary outputs are your direct action items. These are the alerts to place a new order for parts, or maybe reschedule a delivery, or even cancel an order if the main plan changes. Then you've got the secondary outputs. These are more for analysis. Performance reports on costs, exception reports that flag problems like bottlenecks, and even forecasts for what you'll need in the future. Now, when all of this comes together, the benefits create this really powerful chain reaction. Because you know materials will show up exactly when you need them, you can keep way less inventory on hand, which frees up a ton of cash. That efficiency translates directly into faster delivery times for your customers, which in turn boosts satisfaction and makes your whole brand stronger. It's a fantastic cycle.
But of course, no system is a silver bullet, right? MRP can be pretty expensive and difficult to get up and running, and its schedules can be a bit rigid. And ironically, the system's precision can sometimes make managers nervous, so they end up hoarding just-in-case inventory, which kind of defeats the whole point. But honestly, all of these challenges, they pale in comparison to its one single critical vulnerability, its absolute dependence on perfect data.
Yeah, the system is only as good as the information you feed it. A single typo in an inventory count or a small miscalculation in the master schedule, it doesn't just create a small problem. That error gets magnified exponentially all the way down the production line. You know, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, has never been more true, or frankly more expensive.
Look, an MRP system can be a truly revolutionary tool for a business, but all of that power is entirely dependent on the quality of its data. So the ultimate question for any company thinking about this isn't just, do we need an MRP system? The real question is our data good enough for MRP?